this figure is aware of who she is and sort of the power of her physical presence and sort of adorns herself to reflect that. That drawing is called steeped. It refers to like those pyramids are steep, that physical kind of angle, but also she being a person who is considering this broad breadth of history. Like, how does one really consider your place in the world and your connection to histories that are denied? You have to start looking at these like African histories and trying to figure out, do you have a place in that? And for me, like recently looking at this sort of indigenous Indian cultures and like how do those relate, you have to really start investigating those things. You have to become steeped in those histories. I was a little obsessed, I think still somewhat, with Dogon imagery. Like the Dogon have a really kind of wild creation mythology that has to do with observing the stars, and I'm also obsessed with science fiction. So, you know, this idea of interstellar travel and like the musician Sun Ra. So you'll see these juxtaposing symbols of, you know, these African objects, materials. You'll see science fiction, Star Trek. I'm sort of interested in like the predicament of race in this country is so limiting. You walk in a room and you are, you know, a black person, whatever your sort of other is. And so I'm interested in like what happens when those things don't exist. And specifically, I'm wondering like, what do black people look like in the future without those limitations? So for me, Afrofuturism, like going into outer space, but space as a metaphor for like literal space, like room to kind of think and breathe. And I kind of took that on as like my own ideology. John Biggers is an artist who started the art program that I went to, and he had an entire like ideology based around matriarchy and how he represented women as like, you know, really powerful heads of family, of culture, of production, like their ability to create life. And I remember specifically trying to like mimic some of his aesthetic things, like how he would draw hands and feet and that sort of thing. And I think doing that, women seeped into just my own sort of creative output. Like they hold a lot of sort of meaning for me in how the world should sort of operate. So the drawing in the collection, it's a drawing of my girlfriend. I find the color to be a little intense and I like the contrast. The whole thing is created as I go through the process. Like a lot of it is not planned. Like these are the colors I have available in my little kit right now. Which one would kind of reflect her skin the best? Yeah, because so much of it happens like just intuitively in the moment. Like how can I make this thing really, how can I make it absurd? You know, what would not really happen in the world? I'm drawn to the absurd, especially in terms of like dress and adornment and those kinds of things, as a way of breaking out of these limitations that kind of exist in the world. And I think one way to do that is to give examples that really stretch the boundaries, you know. Maybe in somebody seeing that, like there's a consideration of what is possible, what could I do?